It's been a long time since the Bud Light controversy originally erupted online. In case you don't remember, Dylan Mulvaney scored a sponsorship with Bud Light and received a beer can with his face on it. And that became the biggest boycott in American history. Bud Light ended up losing 17% in sales after the controversy came about. And they had to correct course and win back good faith with their consumers.
To like hire Shane Gillis, right?
Yeah, they had to also win back the favor of Dana White as well. So I think they've recovered so far, but the question is, can Dylan Mulvaney ultimately recover from that controversy? And I think that he is gearing up to do just that with a memoir that is soon to be released titled Paper Doll, Notes from a Late Bloomer.
How does Dylan Mulvaney end up with a beer sponsorship rather than a wine sponsorship?
Well, that's the thing. It's so quirky and unexpected. That's why Dylan Mulvaney, when asked what kind of sponsorships he would want to do by his own team, said Tiffany's and beer. Because it's just so
quirky.
So quirky and
Get it?
crazy.
Because Tiffany's is like high end and beer is like low end, guys.
Right. And
you're a genius.
Of course, you wouldn't expect someone so feminine to love beer. So feminine as Dylan Mulvaney. I mean, maybe the most feminine woman on the planet.
It's like when women go out of their way to talk about loving sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this new memoir is about to come out reflecting on the Days of Girlhood TikTok series, the Bud Light controversy, and more. I want to go through the summary. On the cover of this book, you can see Dylan Mulvaney laying in bed, staring at a typewriter in silk negligees. It's like a scene out of an Audrey Hepburn movie. They describe it here. When Dylan Mulvaney came out as a woman online, she was a viral sensation almost overnight, emerging as a trailblazing voice on social media. Dylan's personal coming out story blossomed into a platform for advocacy and empowerment for trans people all over the world. Through her Days of Girlhood series, she connected with followers by exploring what it means to be a girl, from experimenting with makeup, to story times, to spilling tea about laser hair removal, while never shying away from discussing the transphobia she faced online. Nevertheless, she was determined to be a beacon of positivity. But shortly after she celebrated day 365 of being a girl, it all came screeching to a halt when an innocuous post sparked a media firestorm and right-wing backlash she couldn't have expected. Despite the vitriolic press and relentless paparazzi, Dylan was determined to remain loud and proud. So this is talking about Dylan Mulvaney's struggles, both pre and post transition. There are salacious tales about one night stands.
I bet you there's some crazy ones in there.
Definitely, maybe more than anyone wants to know, and in too much graphic detail. And self-pitying monologues about how Dylan Mulvaney reached a very dark place in the middle of the Bud Light controversy, at some points carrying a kitchen knife out and about in fear of what the paparazzi would do to him.
Should have got your conceal and carry.
Yeah. Well, in LA, that's not really a
a
viable option.
False alarm.
And I did notice in the promotional effort behind this memoir, both the New York Times and Rolling Stone happened to post an interview cover story with Dylan Mulvaney at the very same time.
It's all planned. Like those right-wing influencers in their Epstein list.
In the New York Times piece, they titled it, Dylan Mulvaney Dreams of Privacy.
It's a worldwide privacy tour again.
This is like even worse than Meghan Markle's privacy tour.
I can see a collab coming.
They'd be perfect.
American Riviera X Mulvaney.
Right. Perfect. Days of Girlhood as ever. I mean, yeah. Her bubbly video diaries about gender transition were once a study in oversharing. Now, on the other side of a nationwide boycott, she sees the value in keeping some things to herself. You simply cannot go preaching about privacy and keeping things to yourself when you are the most attention-hungry person possibly on the public stage right now. A theater kid who has been seeking and chasing fame for years. Before we even knew who Dylan Mulvaney was, Dylan Mulvaney was already on the quest for fame.
Yeah.
You cannot be preaching about your new perspective on wanting to keep things to yourself and having some kind of discretion about social media when you are oversharing, like you are the poster child of oversharing and seeking out controversy anywhere you can find it.
Yeah, we're not really in the age anymore of like the craftsman actor who gains fame as a byproduct of really, really loving their work, and then they don't handle it well because they just, it's not what they wanted, which to me, there's always been, I feel like people see something a bit novel about that. It's like, I'm famous against my will.
We have a 20 from the Crafty Raccoon. I forgot about Dylan Mulvaney. I wish I wasn't reminded. I can't wait to forget.
Well, I mean, maybe that's a white pill for like anytime you think. So one of the things that people complain about when we do this show is they're like, you cover too much of this, you cover too much of that. There was a time when they're like, all you guys talk about is Taylor Swift. Well, nobody's talked about Taylor Swift other than maybe a couple of mentions during the Super Bowl.
They said that about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
About Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. They're saying, like, you guys are just bleeding that
Ezra Miller.
You guys are bleeding that Blake Lively story dry. It's like, well, guess what? In a month, maybe it's 2 months, maybe it's 1 week, maybe it's 2 weeks, it'll disappear from the cultural zeitgeist again, and you'll be back onto something else because that's the whole point of following the news for stuff like this. If there's something that annoys you, it sucks, but likely it'll disappear eventually.
And that's what I thought happened to Dylan Mulvaney. I thought that this person kind of faded into obscurity after realizing they bit off more than they could chew, but that wasn't enough. Like, Dylan Mulvaney still isn't satisfied and needs more attention. And it's funny because you bring this up a lot, this sweet spot of fame that people can reach where it's enough to keep you in a successful career in Hollywood, but you also don't have to completely sacrifice some parts of a normal life to get it.
Yeah.
And that's what Dylan Mulvaney is referring to here. Mulvaney's cultural cachet during this time reached a level she hopes to never see again. She pointed to her phone's wallpaper, a photo of Kristen Chenoweth, who is in the Wicked Broadway musical. That's my ideal level of success. They're doing Broadway shows, hosting, performing, and they have a really healthy level of personal downtime and relationships and privacy. Well, there's an irony to Mulvaney's glorification of privacy after years of courting views and sponsorships by broadcasting daily updates about her personal life.
Well, so then I can give Dylan Mulvaney a white pill here. That's possible for you now. Like, here's the thing. You have to have something you're, like, really good at or noticeable from. I get, like, the thing is, if you want to be an influencer, you're not going to get that. Now the fame is a byproduct of being an influencer. But, you know, Christine Chenoweth, like, that's the byproduct of a career that, as much prestige as it may bring them, it's not like it's the big budget blockbuster movies, right? There's a lot of wrestlers and actors that talk about this that are television focused, where they're like, I get recognized at the airport, but it's not over the top. It's not like I walk in someplace and people mob me, but somebody says, oh, hey, I remember you from this, or I remember you from that. Like, that's a good place to be. That's why I do think that television actors, despite the fact that it's probably terrifying to have to kind of always be looking for your next project, like, if you can find that sweet spot, like I said, David Boreanaz ain't had a day off in 2 decades. But he's always working and probably gets recognized because he played Angel, gets recognized because of Bones and SEAL Team. But it's probably not the end of the world if when he goes out, he can go out in his own town. Maybe that's what Dylan Mulvaney needs to shoot for the moon for. Publishing
a memoir about this is not the start on that path.
No,
though.
it's not.
Like, that clearly betrays your motives.
Yes.
And we're never really here's the unfortunate thing. We're never going to know whether Dylan Mulvaney could have just been a successful stage actor. Will we? Because it looks to me like the ugly truth is Dylan Mulvaney could not have made it as a Broadway star just as a gay man, and had to get the TikTok clout and the controversy based on choosing a gender identity that was controversial and then making fun of women. Yeah. Like, that was his ticket to fame. And we'll never know. Probably he wasn't capable of reaching this level of fame without it. And now you're preaching about how you're going to meticulously curate your public persona and choose what to share and not share at will, when you were just so like nakedly ambitious and just like craven and hungry and striving for even negative attention, which betrays the type of person you are.
Yeah.
It's just I can't respect that. There's no honesty.
I mean, part of it is actually like whatever's being shared might feel true in the moment, but the thing is a lot of times social media clout is deeply tied to like dopamine, and sure, you want the privacy right up until you haven't had that hit in a while, and you need to share something so that people can comment on it.
Yeah.
I've never understood that as a means of being like, I don't care if it's good attention or bad attention. Any attention is good. Like, I'll never understand, because that's kind
it's
of
all feedback.
It's kind of a requirement to be a social media influencer in a way now. Like, you don't really get by on just being universally likable. Like,
Please
if you
like me.
If you care about how you're perceived, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
To do that.
So you have to fashion
I could never do
some way not to care. And that's
couldn't do
almost impossible for any human being on the planet.
Like, when I feel like people misunderstand something I say, I'm annoyed.
It bothers you, and it should bother you. That's a normal reaction, but
then I see the people who they don't care, and I'm like, look, respect, you got the ability to not care about this shit. Like, I don't. And the thing is also is like, I'm looking at it from the perspective of somebody who understands the game and sees how the game must be played, even if I'm not willing to play it. So I get it. I couldn't do it myself, but respect for the people that do. Like, I couldn't do it.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because Dylan Mulvaney is clearly someone who doesn't let on that he knows exactly how to play that game and manipulate and then put on a front like it's all completely innocent and organic. He also responded to people like me, the far-right extremists, in this interview with Rolling Stone, saying, trans joy is another top priority for 2025, as it's necessary to combat the negative. Dylan Mulvaney hopes to keep those triumphs front and center. If I'm living my life and I'm successful and I'm happy and I'm thriving and feeling euphoric, that's not a normal thing to feel. That means that whatever is being pushed by the far right or extremists isn't true. I'm living proof that it's not true. Contrary to past social media habits, though, not everything is destined for public consumption these days. Quote, I post a lot less, recalling sage advice from Laverne Cox back in her first year of transition to keep things to herself.
It's actually an empowering thing to just keep it to yourself. Like, it's an empowering thing to be like, putting this out there isn't always the best course of action. It's not good for your career if you're doing what you're doing for a living.
Yeah, well, that's how you know someone is going to be a flash in the pan. And Dylan Mulvaney, being a textbook narcissist, needs the feedback anyway.
Yeah. So
whatever cheap dopamine is out there on offer, Dylan Mulvaney is just like, give it to me now. Like, I don't care what it is. Just tell me what you think of me. So I don't believe any of this. Like, I don't take anything that he says at face value. Neither should you. I'm sure you weren't anyway.
I mean, you shouldn't do that for any celebrity.
Or any theater kid, especially. I don't trust musical theater people. They're all wearing a disguise.
Mm-hmm.
They should all just stay sequestered off into their own little insular culture.
So you're telling
and
me...
I still think that theater kids should be the first people that Elon blasts off to Mars so they can start the colony over there and we can live without them on our planet.
So you're telling me that when Rachel Zegler says that we just have a difference of opinion on Snow White, she doesn't actually mean it. It was actually just a PR stunt to try and get people to go to the movie?
Shocking, I know.
That's crazy.
My earth is shattered.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.